My goodness, is the honeymoon period over? Is Baldur's Gate 3 maybe not the darling that we thought it was? Well, that is perhaps what some fans are suggesting, because I am seeing for the first time ever people really coming together to criticize Larian and the game. And there are some grievances they're raising that are somewhat fair. Now, for me, I'm not so sure. I think Larian did a great job releasing the game. They're still continuing to fix it. Even with all the acclaim the title was getting, there were still issues with it. Act 3 especially. I think a lot of people jumped in. The first act is really, really well polished, and people say, it's incredible, this is 10 out of 10, this is a flawless title. But a lot of those people probably never even got to the third act. So many people start a game, they never finish it. So Baldur's Gate 3 has never actually been perfect. It's just miles ahead of most of what we see in the industry in the modern age. Now, the grievances people are raising, it kind of relates to Larian are ongoingly trying to fix this game. They're releasing patches, the most recent being patch 6, which introduced some new romance options, quality of life changes, little bits here and there. The issue is, when they patch the game, they're often seemingly introducing as many issues as they're solving. So you could be going through your playthrough, all is fine and dandy, Larian introduce a patch, and suddenly you start running into issues you've never seen before. And it can be a little frustrating when they're meant to be fixing things, they're introducing new problems. That can be kind of annoying. The other problem, as they raise in this community post here, this was put on, I assume, a Larian or Baldur's Gate Discord, fans and now Larian themselves have raised the issue that when a new patch comes out, it breaks a whole lot of mods that players are using. Baldur's Gate 3 has a seemingly decent modding scene, and when a new patch comes out, it seems to break a lot of the mods that people have been using. And often when that happens, the mod creators, they're not going to be ready with the fix immediately. So if you're in the middle of a playthrough, your mods get broken by, in this case, patch 6, you might have to wait some time before that mod will ever work again, which can, again, be quite annoying if you're trying to get through your game. So the grievances are fair. However, I do think sometimes it's a nuanced issue. We can sit here and say to ourselves, we don't want to be hypocrites. Larian have made a mistake. They've maybe been incompetent. We should hold them to account the same way we would in Electronic Arts or whoever it might be. I don't really see it that way though, because if this was an EA situation where they introduced a patch that broke whatever game, Jedi Survivor or whatever it could be, I'd put that down to laziness or management wanting them to rush patches out so they can move on to the next project. Essentially them not really wanting to spend any more money on a title like that. I'd immediately have that thought because that is the reputation an EA has cultivated. But with Larian, I just give them the benefit of the doubt because of their reputation. It's not, in my view, being a hypocrite. I don't think I'm just making excuses because I want to be a fanboy for Larian. I think prior reputation has to come into it to some extent. We can criticize this, and people are definitely doing so. Larian have acknowledged that in this post, which I'll get to in a second. But I think there's more to it where we can say, hey, maybe they bit off a bit more than they could chew. They've had some teething issues because Baldur's Gate 3 is their biggest title. And maybe as their team's grown, there are people working there who maybe have made mistakes and they need to sort some of this out. So there's plenty they need to address. They can't just have mods breaking every time they do a little fix here and there. But I don't think they're doing anything maliciously, lazily. They want to make sure Baldur's Gate 3 can be the best it can be because there's so many people playing it. 600,000 plus concurrent players still on Steam, probably similar on other platforms. They're not doing anything like this on purpose. It's a genuine mistake. And what they mentioned in this post, I won't read all of it, but the important part, under modding here, they mention, we absolutely love that we have such an active modding community across our titles, and have enjoyed seeing that passion grow even stronger with Baldur's Gate 3. We want to continue making sure you're getting the best possible experience, which is why we frequently patch the game, although this does inevitably mean that each new patch or hotfix has the potential to become incompatible with your favorite mods. We know this sucks, we know you want to play with mods, and we want to make this right. At least they're admitting to it. other big publishers, they'd probably try and word salad their way around this. There'd be some sort of corporate message where they don't acknowledge the mistake because legal said you shouldn't do it because otherwise you could be held accountable. Some sort of nonsense. They're not doing anything like that. They do sort of say, hey, we did fuck up. We are going to have to fix this. And they do say, we are working on official mod support and have been for a while. We want the very best for you, which includes establishing a pipeline that lets mod authors release their mods across different platforms. Now, I will say for me, it's great to have UI mods or whatever people are doing. I haven't really explored the Baldur's Gate 3 modding scene. All I really want is custom campaigns. I really hope what ends up happening in a year's time or something like that is it becomes really easy for passionate fans with talent to release their own adventures. Larian, they haven't sort of confirmed it, but it doesn't sound like we're going to get proper campaign DLC, and I don't really think they're going to devote all their time to a Baldur's Gate 4. I think they're going to move on to something else, but I'd really love to see full-fledged adventures by modders, a bit like Skyrim has gotten in some cases, where you can get literally new games essentially just using the engine and all the tools. Official mod support could really make that easy, and that's going to be so beneficial. Now, this was their post from a few days ago. It's kind of escalated since then. One of the key team members at Larian, the director of publishing, he's not so happy with some of the feedback that they've received. And to sort of get into it, he mentions here, we'll be talking in depth about what our mod support will look like soon. Been working on it since launch. As always, we'll discuss it in our way with our community. Threats and toxicity against our devs and community teams will only harm the conversation. Please stop that. Now, in most scenarios, when I hear from huge gaming companies that they're getting toxic threats and death threats and whatever else, I honestly take it with a grain of salt, and that might be a hot take, but I've just seen too many times, a key example being The Last of Us Part 2, where the game was getting rightfully criticised for its story, and then the studio Naughty Dog came out and said, oh no, our voice actresses are getting death threats, stop. And then all the criticism of the game sort of disappeared, and people said, it's only a video game, guys, let's maybe stop criticising it, let's move on. Now, I'm not condoning people leaving death threats and all of that sort of stuff. However, this is the internet. Newsflash, there are insane people, deranged people who will go on and they'll stalk you, they'll do crazy stuff. It's sadly going to happen, you probably can't really stop it, but I don't think that that should mean that you aren't allowed to criticize something, because it might bring out a few unhinged people. You should almost take it somewhat as a compliment that you're bringing out those people. It means you've really made it. Your game's so popular that these weirdos are now coming to the party. So it's obviously not good, but I also don't think we need to stop everything. Don't criticize a game because that sort of stuff is happening. Now, in Larian's case, I don't think it's a Last of Us 2 situation, where I believe that they talked about those death threats almost as a PR move to silence the criticism. I think Larian are probably genuinely upset, understandably, that it's getting this way, because, I mean, what is the mindset? It's like, I want mod support. If I leave a death threat for the devs, maybe I'll get it quicker. Is that the logic? That's really sound, isn't it? Good job. But this guy goes on to say, this is a game that went from 2 million players to way over 10 million in a very short space of time. So it's natural the conversation becomes muddier and complex. But in order to maintain the same level of dialogue, we need people to understand that these conversations take time. Makes sense. If they're talking about official mod support and getting that right, totally fine with them taking their time with it. Again, I want to see really ambitious mods. Genuine adventures, genuine campaigns, new stories. I don't just want a few little quality of life mods. That is not something that's going to excite me massively. For some people, it might be fantastic. I don't really care. I think the game's pretty intuitive as it is. I just want those really huge mods that totally change the game. So absolutely take your time. If people are being impatient, that's probably on them. Again, some people are understandably frustrated because maybe their game has gotten broken and things like that. But again, if you're insulting the devs, I don't think it's going to make them fix it any faster. They're probably just going to dig their heels in even more. He goes on to say, we can't do it at all without the dedicated community teams that work to untangle a giant web of noise into something we can work with for the benefit of everyone. If you truly want to know things about the game, please don't chip away at the people who connect us all. 99.9% of our community are the absolute best, and it's because of them, thankfully, that my community team perseveres. But I suppose it was inevitable that when you have a city, a few bad eggs will start a fire. At least he's acknowledging that. Again, it's kind of annoying if it's implied that there's lots and lots of people making these weird threats. Like, it's obviously a tiny minority. As he says, not even 1%. It's 0.1% at the very most. I wouldn't even say it's that, given the amount of people playing Baldur's Gate. It's a handful of unhinged people. Often when you get this sort of criticism, no matter what job you're in, what you're doing, it's really hard not to just focus massively on those one or two people who insult you or call you out on something. The negativity is something that you can focus on. Obviously, this is an acclaimed game. Look at the Steam reviews. Most people are saying unbelievably positive things. Again, I understand why he's upset, but just ignore these people. They obviously don't represent the community as a whole. Until then, Baldur's Gate 3 does not yet have mod support. Don't get angry at mod authors, support teams, community, or developers. That is weird if people are getting angry at mod authors, because obviously Larian put the patch in, it breaks the mod. The mod is an unpaid person, most likely, who then has to work to make his mod up to date with the new patch. It's going to take time. If you're getting angry at the mod author, Jesus. Our focus is to patch the game while working on future mod support. I understand why it's frustrating, so what we all need to do is focus on that future. Next week, I'll have a discussion about community moderation with our comms team and restate our desire for continued closeness with our communities and updates based on when and what we can say. But we are working too hard for this to proliferate. To finish again, we can only be close if we can work close. If we cannot do that and we have to draw distance, it'll really suck for everyone, especially us, definitely you. Please help us to work for the greater good of the millions of people who are involved and chill. Now, I think this whole series of tweets is sort of an emotional reaction to some criticism, and again, some people have obviously gone way too far. But I don't know if this was 100% necessary to go into all this. There's a few unhinged people. Don't sort of drag the whole community into it when it is just a handful of insane individuals. Some of the criticism is valid. They probably have to get back to work and just make sure they maybe be a little bit more patient with the patches. I recently finished a Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough. I tried to do as much content as I could. I don't think the game is in a broken state really anywhere. There's obviously issues here and there, but I don't think anything is so severe that you need to rush out a patch and then introduce a bunch of new problems. Take your time with it. If you feel under pressure because of some of these weirdos, please don't. Just take your time with it. People are still actively playing. We're not going anywhere. Many people are going to come back. They're going to keep doing new playthroughs. There's always more to see. Again, I'm excited for the modding stuff when it happens. It sounds like it's going to be some time away. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't even come until sort of towards the end of the year, maybe next year, that we get real official modding support where you can do much more. I don't think it's ever going to be like the creation kit for, say, Skyrim, the Bethesda games, where you can really do anything and it's so easy. I don't think Larian's engine will ever be quite that, but just with the passion that this game has, I can see lots of people getting involved and us getting those custom campaigns. That's my dream, to see that for Baldur's Gate 3, where we're essentially getting Dungeons & Dragons campaigns semi-regularly. There's always something new to do. That would be absolutely amazing. It's why Skyrim is the 10+ year game that people have enjoyed. Bethesda tried to recapture that with Starfield. Obviously not happening. Maybe the modders who are not going to work on Starfield, they can come together and do something with Baldur's Gate. That would be extremely cool. The short of this is, Larian have gotten some just criticism on how they're releasing patches, breaking mods. Some people have gone too far with the criticism and it's maybe upset some of the devs, but I don't think this is a massive deal overall. I think they can just ignore the weirdos. they can keep doing what they're doing, and hopefully the next patch they learn from this, they stop breaking mods, they take a bit more time with it, and then soon, maybe a little bit down the track, but hopefully soon, we get that official modding support, and it's good things from there. People love Larian. This isn't going to change that, I don't think, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.